Lower right corner. There you are.
I found a button that said unmute.
You know, you'd think you'd know these things.
So many buttons.
Yeah, the world's full of them. We have to deal with it. For those at home, we're going to speak to Paul Gilbert today. He's got a new album out called Werewolves of Portland. Came out June 4th, and we're excited about it. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I'd like to hear...
Werewolves of Portland. I have to do my howl. But
Get it. Perfect. Well, I'd like to hear about the new record. What can you share with us?
Well, it did not go according to plan. My plan was to do it like the last one, which was the last one was called Behold Electric Guitar, and I had a live band in the studio, and that makes things go fast and easily, and everybody has a good time, and because you're playing music with human beings. And that's what I wanted to do for this one too. And then that darn quarantine happened, and I thought, well, how long can this go on? So I just sort of put the plans on hold, and I kept hanging on to the plan. And after about 6 months, I thought, I think I have to start rethinking this, because I don't know what's going on here. So I thought, well, what I ended up coming up with was the idea, I'll try to play all the instruments myself. I'll get an engineer to record it. We'll risk, we'll kind of try to keep our distance, but we'll kind of be in the same room sometimes, and we'll see how it goes. And if I'm not good enough as a drummer, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And we started with the easiest song to give me the confidence builder, and got through that one. Then we did the hardest song next, and I made it through that one. And then that was fine. I could play drums on the whole record, played bass, played keyboards, played guitar. I sang, although I sang with my guitar. And the only thing I suppose I didn't draw the album cover. I tried, but I didn't quite like my own drawing, so I hired a professional to do that. Although I did draw for the video. Oh, the video of the first single, Argument About Pie, I illustrated the whole video, and it might be the first instrumental song that has a lyric video.
That is so unusual.
Well, when everything's been done, you got to scratch around a little to find something that hasn't.
That's exactly it. And I was going to teach you a little bit about, you have to work on that album cover, then you can do everything. Okay.
You can tease me about anything, but I'm going to tease you about that Travis Bean or Kramer. What is that with the aluminum neck?
It's a Travis Bean. Yeah. Last time we talked, I guess it was June of 19. You mentioned that as well. Yeah. It's an old Travis Bean.
That's awesome. Did the Jacksons play those? I kind of remember an ad.
Oh, there's a few. Grateful Dead had their hands in them. Slash plays one occasionally.
That's awesome. And it weighs about 27 pounds, right?
Only on the neck. It's also got that unusual challenge that you tune it backstage and you walk out under the lights, and of course everything changes.
But that's just cool. That's an awesome instrument there. I am impressed.
It's a fun guitar. It is, and it's parked. Those days are done. Let's get back to your record. Let's talk a little bit more about it. So you managed to play everything on the album, and I'm very impressed with that. The songs were already written? Would you have written things differently if you knew up front walking in that, hey, I'm going to play everything on this record, so I have to take a different approach or the same approach?
I don't think so. And that was one thing, is I didn't really plan it in advance, so yeah. I couldn't have like this big block of time uninterrupted. The engineer had already booked stuff, so we would just find holes in his schedule and in mine, because I have online school I'm always teaching at, and that gave me gaps in between where I could think about things. So I might go in and record the drum track, but then I'd have a day off because the engineer was busy, and I could sort of, plan things out a little bit. So it's actually nice to have those spaces and a lot of course, the deadline is everything. You know, I'd be driving to the session, and the last 15 seconds, think, well, I got to come up with the ending, and that pressure would do it. But yeah, as far as writing, really the main thing with writing is the fact that I'm playing the melodies on guitar rather than singing them. Really removes a lot of some of the harder limitations that I have as a vocalist, because I don't have a great range. You know, I have to sing within a pretty small range if I'm the singer, and that's not the case with guitar. With guitar, you know, you can do those Elton John jumps. You know, the boys too young to be singing the blues. You know, the giant leaps that a real singer would do. And on a guitar, I can do those. So that, and I accomplished something that I'm pretty sure I've never come even anywhere close to before, which is in this song called "Meaningful." So first of all, it's a long melody. It's like, what gives life meaning? What makes me want to get up in the morning? What makes me want to tell my friends that they got to see this? Like an upside down guitar from the guy in Kiss. Oh, and when my love comes home, and it goes on and on, a really long melody. And at the end of it, I have a note that's 7 beats long. I go like, and so I've never played a 7-beat note. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, and then it changes. And not only do I play it, but it's written into it's written into the structure of the melody.
Sure.
So, you know, maybe at some point in my life I played a long note because it was just, you know, I had some nice feedback and it just, you know, it happened by accident. But this is like intentional. It's part of the whole structure. And for a person that normally plays like 16th note triplets, you know, where you squeeze 18 notes into a beat or whatever it is, to have a 7-beat note is like mathematically so dramatically different than the way I've played most of my life and the way I've written most of my life, that it was just wonderful to have that, kind of have a different voice. You know, 'cause that's really, I mean, maybe other people do that all the time, but for me, that's a new thing.
Yeah, you're kind of stabbing into my next song a little bit here, in that I was going to comment that your playing over the years has become far more expressive. I mean, you burst onto the scene as this 9 million, you know, note guy and so on. And today you're playing with a slide and your 7-beat, you know, note and the whole thing. You're playing more expressively. And how did that evolution occur? I mean, have you thought about this and just sort of moved toward it, or it's just natural?
Well, some of it is from teaching, and you know, to me, one of the worst things that I could do as a teacher would be to say to a student, "Oh, you need to work on your feel," because that word is so general. It's really, yeah. I mean, a lot of time that's exactly what I need to tell somebody. And sometimes that's what I need to tell myself, but that's too general. That's not helpful. You can't tell somebody, go work on your feel, because that's too broad. You know, that's too big of an assignment. So as a teacher, my job is to break that up into bits that you can actually get a grip on. You know, well, what is feel? And most of the people who really have a good instinct about feel, I mean, an instinct is something that you do without thinking. And maybe you had to think about it once, but you got it to the point where you do it so easily that you can turn the brain off and just do it, which really is that's wonderful if you can do that. But for the rest of us, when you're for the times when you're not a genius, you know, you got to find your way somehow. And so I've had to, as a teacher, I've had to break down like what is feel, and there are things that you can break it down into, and it's those, I call it the elements of expression. And you can make a list, and a lot of times what it is it's differences, it's dynamics. It's like, okay, well, you have loud, well, but you also have quiet, and whenever you vary loud and quiet, it really is an emotional thing. It grabs you by the heart. And the same thing with length. You can have a long note, like a 7-note one, 7-beat one, or you can have a short one. And if you only do one of them, you start sounding like a robot. but if you vary it, you start sounding like a human being. And it's that same thing that happens with texture. You can have like a real trebly sharp note, but you can have a muted bassy note. And whenever you start doing all of one, and robots are impressive. You know, it's if you like take one sound and you program it with MIDI or a computer, and you make it super fast, it's like, wow, man, that's what technique. And I think that's kind of what people hear it when you categorize like, oh, that player has good technique. It's because they've been able to do a lot of sameness, like they've been able to play a lot of really consistently. A lot of stuff a lot of those elements become the same. Like if you pick real fast, those are the same length or the same texture. It might be a repeating motif, so the notes are the same. And it's, that can create an energy. It's not like that's forbidden. And, I mean, robots are people too.
Absolutely.
You can have that element, but as soon as you start having short and long, and muted and and a note that has no vibrato, a note that has a lot of vibrato that changes speed inside of it. So all these discoveries are stuff that I were part of my instincts, but I wasn't able to put to list them off like that intellectually.
Yeah.
And that's what teaching has helped me do. Because, if I hear a student, it's like, man, they got their notes right and they got the rhythm right, but it still sounds, it doesn't feel right. Why? And then I would have to go and figure it out. That's my job as a teacher. And that's where I found those things. And once you find them, then I can, turn the mirror around and go like, okay, well, how am I doing on that stuff? And a lot of it you find from vocalists. I mean, anybody who's a singer tends to be way more advanced with the elements of expression than a guitar player does. And so, you start copying singers and that stuff's just all over the place. And that's what I did. I learned like, Janis Joplin, Mercedes-Benz, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? And then get that on guitar. And that took me a long time to get it to that level, but you get Mercedes-Benz down, and anything I write is going to be easy in comparison.
Well, to support your comments you just made, as musicians, we tend to find holes in songs and fill them. I mean, if you're a bass player, guitar player, singer, it doesn't matter. If there's a gap there, hey, that's a point for me. Okay. But it really, in time, I think the musician, the vocalist, comes to the realization that you also have to know when not to fill that hole, when to let the song breathe, let the rhythm take it. And it's a very important concept. Scary. Yeah.
A space is terrifying for multiple reasons. One that's if you're not making any noise, that's where the audience could boo. You don't want to hear that. See, and also the nature of loud, distorted electric guitars. If you stop, a lot of times the instrument will just start howling and feeding back and shrieking.
Yeah.
And so you have to actually dial in a certain kind of sound where you're able to stop, or just be real fast with your volume control, so you're able to control those spaces. But with slide, that's helped me a lot with it, and vocal lines. Just because you start to realize that you're playing the space. The space is an intentional part where the melody breathes, and it's a better melody then. And I grew up listening to melodies, not necessarily from guitar players as much, but from singers. And so like I got the greatest lick from Paul McCartney, the blackbird singing in the dead of night, and then at the very end of it, he does that into the line of the dark black night, and that's hard to play on slide. You really have to move for it. That's a tough interval to get with the standard tuning. What's the one the one I've been trying to get is Some Kind of Wonderful, the Grand Funk version. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't need a whole lot of money. And to get it on a slide. With that or the other great one is Joy to the World. So you go, joy to the world, space, and that high, that is so much better because there's a space. But you're right. I'm just agreeing with you.
No, okay. Well, finally, I'm right. I appreciate that. So I know that you dug out some of your older guitars for this record, and in a sense, there's that old idiom that clothes make the man. Did you find that there was inspiration from the guitars that you were pulling out and playing again on this record? Did you get a sense of those old feelings of playing a little quicker or so on?
Well, I actually started collecting some vintage stuff from the 80s, and I didn't want to admit that the 80s are vintage. Because when I grew up, like the 50s and maybe the 60s were vintage, like the 80s are vintage. That can't be.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, they are. The brand that I endorse, Ibanez, they made some amazing stuff. They were kind of just finding themselves, and because in the 70s they were like, they would copy a lot of the famous Gibson and Fenders, but in the 80s they started doing their own designs, and they were really kind of fighting to establish themselves. So they did such good work in that era. And the stuff's relatively inexpensive, man. I got this one guitar for like $200. I was like, whoa,
deal. Yeah.
And it's also they're not like museum pieces, so I don't feel bad if I just swap out a pickup or put a slide magnet on it. So they're fun. They're fun to play that way. But I would say the biggest discovery, I don't know if you're a guitar player, so is because I'm playing slide, I raise the action up a lot. And man, even when I'm not playing slide, even though, obviously you got to work a little bit to press it down, the guitar resonates so much better. And I use really light strings. I use an 8s. So people pick up my band, if somebody plays my guitar, they're like, oh, rubber bands. I'm like, that's right, rubber bands. I love it. I can bend them like crazy. But you can get 8s to really sustain and sound beautiful with high action. And slide works. What's that Zeppelin one? It's you kind of think, you hear that, you think, oh, it must be 12s. It's like,
I was going to say, you need to put 13s on there, give yourself a workout.
Yeah, and then and it's just everything's real. I can sort of beat away on it too, because it doesn't buzz. A lot of that, like the Hendrix stuff, where he's playing almost like an acoustic strum, like just bash away at it. With low action, that just turns into the big buzzy mess. But with a high action, it resonates, and you can get some clarity, even though this clarity still comes through the chaos.
Oh, I completely understand and agree. Yeah. You mentioned a lot of these guitar heroes. We can learn a great deal from the ones that came before us, style, technique, and so on. The challenge, of course, is to develop our own style, to become ourselves, or our own unique voice, if you will. How do you get to that point for yourself? Do you push away the other voices and you're just listen to what's in your head, or do you just continue to listen and build from it?
That's, I mean, to me, it's almost impossible not to have your own style. It's going to come through. You have to start somewhere. You build a language, like, we have the common language of English that we're using now. It's not like, you don't want to have a style that's too different and nobody understands you.
I agree there.
And I mean, music is really like a language. So you sort of choose the areas where you want to be fluent. And the more fluent that you are, the more you're able to express what you want to express. I think that the thing with style maybe is it's what you listen to from the outside and what stays what stays in. Like, I do a weird experiment. I call it my inner melodic generator. And you try to listen to what is in your head without actually making, without singing anything, without playing anything. And it's scary because sometimes there's nothing in there. And you have to wait or somehow get those juices flowing to hear what's in it. But I always test it out. I'll tell people just like in complete silence, say your name inside your head and listen to what it sounds like. Because your name's pretty easy to do. You can't do it now because we're talking. It's not totally silent.
Right,
but you have to like be by yourself, get no distraction, and just say your name. And you sort of find that part where that exists, and then okay, well, and you're going to be able to do it. You can say your name, and then go, okay, well, what about a melody? Do Happy Birthday or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, something easy, that you can't mess it up. You've heard it a billion times, and listen to what that sounds like. Again, it's you're not making a sound, and then you start to explore, like, okay, well, within a musical structure, let's say you got a groove going, if you're playing a blues, within that structure, what is your inner melodic generator giving you? It's what's coming out, and that's my exploration into playing blues has been about 50% finding where to go on the guitar and how to the physical part of it, and the other 50% is in here. And like this sounds funny, but if you gave me a kazoo, I could do a so much better blues solo on the kazoo than I could have done it 10 years ago. Sure. And it has nothing to do with my kazoo technique. It has to do with I know I've got a much clearer target of what I want out of a blues melody because I've spent time with that style. I've become more fluent with it, and my inner melodic generator is teeming with ideas where before I hadn't spent enough time to really speak. And so and the thing that's the best thing is when you combine what's in here with what's coming, what your hands are doing, what's coming out of your amp, and all those things connect, and it's beautiful. That just makes your heart glow.
I agree with you completely. The next question is about performance itself, and your approach to performance. Do you find you have differences if you're going to go out and do something with your solo projects, as opposed to Mr. Big, as opposed to a more specialized tour like years back you did G3? Do you find you approach each of those slightly different or all the same?
Well, performing, I just hope that I filled the venue. It's always this little bit of fear of like, oh my goodness, are they gonna? I hope somebody showed up today. And I've been fortunate, but I'm not like Eric Clapton selling out 8 consecutive nights at a stadium, or whatever it is. So there's always this fear, and I think it's a good fear. That to me was the shame of the latter part of Eddie Van Halen's career, is that he had like enough success early on where he could sort of not only exist on his accomplishments, but also those accomplishments were frightening to compete with. And I like what I've done in the past, but I still kind of feel that I can beat it, and I still got to pay the rent. So come with those two things, it makes me get up in the morning and go to work, and I have no fear of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to beat whatever it was, I think like I might be able to do it. I know more about music. I got more stuff to say, and so that's the advantage of being my level. Is that I still have the fear, and I still have the feeling that I can do better than that. So it's that it is what it is.
All right, let's go back to your album. I've got to ask, where are you getting these song titles from? I mean, Argument About Pie and I Love My Lawnmower. I talk about that.
They're all just three chords and the truth.
Yeah.
Well, I love my lawnmower. I have the smallest lawn, right? It's like I could. I don't think I would fit. It's like it's 10-foot square maybe. And so I got this little battery powered rechargeable lawnmower. And that was my chore as a kid. Like I grew up, we were on a farm. We had like an acre of land, and I had to mow that lawn. And we had the push mower. Eventually, we got the riding one. Our neighbor took pity on us and gave him we got one secondhand. But I used to have to take the push mower and mow the whole lawn, an acre. And there were like bees and spiders, and it was sweaty. Summertime, all sweaty, and I did not like the job, and so now to get it done, like it's done, and there's no smelly gas since it's battery powered. So I really love my lawnmower, and I haven't had no maintenance. Much better than the. So maybe I love my lawn just because it's small and I can still get the smell of grass. Anyway, obviously I'm passionate about this, passionate enough to write a song, and it had lyrics. So I can't remember what key that was in. Well, I love my lawnmower 'cause it's a great lawnmower, loving all my accessories too. I can't read it, but anyway, that was where the lyrics came from. And argument about pie was just even before Portland was setting itself on fire. It was I could sort of sense trouble brewing. Like it just everybody's. You drive down the street and half people looked angry.
You think the pie did it?
And I think it was the opposite. I think the pie was the one like oasis.
Yeah.
I would go in the pie shop, and that was like the one place where nobody was scowling, and everybody seemed like they're in decent mood. And so that's and I love pie. So combine good food and a good mood, and you got a rhyme and you got a good thing. And so that. I was just sort of searching for something that where's the one place where everybody can sort of get along and be okay and take a breath, and it seemed like the pie shop was it. So I came up with you can never get in an argument about pie. You can never get in an argument about pie. Was it strum a major chord, drop your shield and sword? Yeah, you'd really have to try. And that's really a high note for me to sing, so that's why it works so well. And my guitar playing allows me to get the melody, be more expressive, and having a lyric video for an instrumental song allows me to get the words across.
It's a great album. I've really enjoyed the songs, and of course the songs will put a smile on your face, but the titles also do the same. And I appreciate that. That's all I've got today. Other than touring, are you going to go out and tour this record?
Well, we shall see. I've got a guitar camp coming up in just a couple of weeks, and that'll really be my first, big footstep outside of the quarantine. And we'll see how it goes. It'll either go great or the world will come to an end or somewhere in between. And, based on that, we'll take the next step. So that's where I'm at. But I've been real fortunate to have my guitar school the whole time, because that's allowed me to be connected, even staying inside my studio, still been able to stay musically connected and inspired and, have some connection with people. But, I definitely want to get out of the house. I'm looking forward to that.
I can appreciate that, getting a chance to get back in front of an audience. I saw a band a few nights back, and it was the first live show I'd seen in over a year, and we're all hungry.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's all I've got. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, thank you so much. Fantastic. I got to get to my next one, and have a great one.
Please have a good night.
Rock that Travis Bean. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.